Hi, I'm Aranya, and I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to talk about a permaculture principle called stacking, and perhaps the most obvious way we're using stacking in this space. This is our covered space where we can grow under glass. It's actually a conservatory on the north side of a garage which is not attached to the house, so it's a little bit of an odd structure put here, I think, for people to sit in sofas and look at the view. But of course, being under glass, we make the absolute most of, as you can see, this warm, mostly frost-free space. So one way we're using stacking in here is to put, well, with these shelves. So one of the things that we do over the winter is to grow winter salads in here, so things that will tolerate cold temperatures and grow through the winter. But at this time of year, they're starting to go to flower and to seed. So we've got some lettuces doing that a little bit as well. And in the next week or two, we'll be starting to plant out tomatoes, which you can see are up there waiting to go, and cucumbers and various other things, some melons and peppers and so on, into these beds. And once they start to get going, they'll be up here quite quickly, and at that point we'll remove the shelves. They just hang from the ceiling. We can take them out of the way and they'll have done their job for the year. So that's stacking in space. You can also apply that principle in relation to things like forest gardening, which is looking at the shape of the woodland edge and just saying, what can I plant in my garden that sits at ground level? So ground cover plants, small herbaceous shrubs, small herbaceous plants, shrubs, small trees, and so on and so forth. So forest gardening is also looking at how we apply the principles of stacking in space. But the other thing we're doing here is applying stacking in time. And one of the most obvious things, perhaps you recognise this plant. This is a potato. So we're the first week of April, and you certainly wouldn't be planting, well, you might start planting your first earlies, maybe even your second earlies by now, but you've only just put them in the soil. We've got a lot in containers out there, but we planted these in February, I think, just as an early potato crop, and they've gone absolutely mad, as you can see. So they're doing really well. They're quite soft, but you know, they're indoors and they're enjoying the weather, and we'll see what kind of crop we get from them. But the intention was to, rather than just have this space unused, we thought, well, let's stack in time some early potatoes under glass. Yeah. So another way we're using stacking in time is to grow plants on here, so that whilst we're growing plants in our beds out there and they're not quite ready to harvest yet, so we've got some things like winter cress and certain, overwintered plants that are just starting to go over. There's a very beautiful plantain called buckshorn plantain, which is very beautiful, and it's just starting to go to seed, but that's a good overwinter leaf crop. And so those plants will be coming out very soon, and we'll already have broad beans that are well started on their way. And of course we can plant another broad bean crop directly into the soil, but when we do that, there's a whole bunch of space around that's not being used. So when we can bring on plants in pots and modules in advance, under cover, we're actually making better use of the time in the bed, keeping the beds full and utilising that principle of stacking in time. And of course the tomatoes being in pots here are also doing that, because they're in pots until there's space for them down here, and then we'll plant them out.